Good morning. Welcome to a special episode of Eagle News for September 11th, and today, September 12th, 2022, Patriot Day.
Today, Eagle News will take a look back at one of the longest days in American history. Let's start our broadcast today with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
My name is Archie.
And my name is Liam. September 11th, 2001. It was the beginning of the school day at the beginning of the school year of the beginning of the millennium. Millions of American children were in classrooms on the morning of September 11th, 2001. When hijackers flew planes into the World Trade Center and the Pentagon.
Then President George W. Bush was in the classroom too, reading with young Florida students until his chief of staff whispered in his ear, "America is under attack."
Let's take a look at this story.
"9/11 would become a date to remember. The job of a president is to protect the American people from harm. And some presidents don't need to worry about that, and some do. And it turns out I was one that did.
My assistant came in and said, "A plane is at the World Trade Center." And I said, "Well, that's a strange accident." And I called the president. Initially, we thought maybe a small plane of some kind. And he said, "Well, keep me posted."
He'd been told that a small twin-engine prop plane crashed into one of the towers of the World Trade Center. That's a horrible accident. I was concerned, but I did not think of it as a national security threat.
I remember when he came in, even as a 7-year-old, you know who the president is, right? And I remember even feeling that young feeling kind of starstruck and giddy, like I'm going to Disney World or something. And I put my hand over my heart. When you think about patriotic things when you're that little, you do the Pledge of Allegiance every day, and I literally put my hand over my heart.
I asked my communicators if they could find a television. And at about 1 minute after 9, they came back in with a television set. So we brought CNN up. I was calling the White House Situation Room to talk to my senior duty officer. So I was chatting with him on the handset and watched the television as the rest of the country was watching the television at 9:03 when the second aircraft impacted into the second World Trade Center tower.
When the second plane hit, there was an audible gasp of air in the room. Some people put their hand on their chest. It was two realizations, right? One, that the immediate death toll, and then the fact that this was an attack on America.
More! Yes, more. Get ready. Light. Yes, light. Get ready.
It hits me as I'm standing there next to the president to the left that the president's the only one that doesn't know the second plane has hit the building.
I had to deliver a message that the president didn't expect to hear and was almost unbelievable. But it also literally was the message he had to hear, whether he wanted to or not.
Andy Card comes up to behind me and says, "Second plane has hit the second tower. America's under attack." And I'm watching a child read. And then I see the press in the back of the room beginning to get the same message I just got. And I could see the horror etched on the face of the news people who had just gotten the same news. During a crisis, it's really important to set a tone and not to panic. And so I waited for the appropriate moment to leave the classroom. I didn't want to do anything dramatic. I didn't want to, lurch out of the chair and scare the classroom full of children. And so I waited.
Try it again. Get ready for the beginning of that sentence. Get ready.
She played with her boat in her house.
I was studying him intently, and his mouth was kind of drawn and tight, and there was for just a brief moment, sort of a startled look in his eyes, and also a weightiness to him, if you will. I could tell he was really focused on trying to get through that event.
You're literally seeing the mindset of the President of the United States play out on TV. Everything about what he thought he was about as a president is changing right in front of you. We hear about the great wartime leaders, Churchill, Roosevelt, others, days, if not weeks, to process and gird themselves for what was ahead. This is all happening in real time.
At 8:46 a.m. on a clear Tuesday morning, an American Airlines Flight 11, loaded with 20,000 gallons of jet fuel, crashed into the North Tower of the World Trade Center in New York City.
Then, 18 minutes after the first plane hit, a second Boeing 767 United Airlines Flight 175 appeared out of the sky, turned sharply towards the World Trade Center, and sliced into the South Tower near the 75th floor.
As millions watch the events
unfolding. Oh, time out, Archie.
As millions watched the events unfolding in New York, American Airlines Flight 77 circled over downtown Washington, D.C., before crashing into the west side of the Pentagon military headquarters at 9:45 a.m.
Jet fuel from the Boeing 757 caused a devastating inferno that led to the structural collapse of the portion of the giant concrete building, which is the headquarters of the U.S. Department of Defense.
All told, 125 military personnel and civilians were killed in the Pentagon, along with all 64 people aboard their airliner.
Let's take a look at a timeline of events back on September 11th, 2001, 20 years ago.
September 11th, 2001. A day of grief. A day of courage. This is how that day unfolded.
My daughter called me. She said, a plane just flew into the World Trade Center. I said, nah, you gotta be kidding. It's gotta be a Piper Cub or some clown was flying down the river.
At 8:46 a.m., American Airlines Flight 11 from Boston, with 92 aboard, traveling at a speed of 470 miles per hour, strikes the North Tower of the World Trade Center complex. Within minutes, officials coordinate the citywide emergency response. Their base of operations is a state-of-the-art command center located on the 23rd floor of 7 World Trade Center. With one tower in flames, the tragedy is only beginning. It is 9:03 when United Airlines Flight 175, with 65 aboard, traveling at the speed of 590 miles per hour, smashes into the South Tower of the World Trade Center. This aircraft strikes the corner of the South Tower. It rips a diagonally shaped gash from the 84th to the 78th floors. The South Tower lasts only 56 minutes before it succumbs at 9:59 a.m. A dust cloud billows outward for blocks. Victims stagger away. At 10:28, the television mast atop the North Tower spears straight down.
Once the collapse started, there really wasn't any way to stop it. It was just going to go all the way down once it got started.
chaos in New York City. Power is down in Lower Manhattan. Phone lines jammed with more than 230 million calls. Hundreds of firefighters trapped in the towers. Hundreds more race to the scene. Falling debris from the collapse of the North and South Towers ignites fires in the neighboring buildings of the World Trade. World Trade 4, 5, and 6 are ablaze. World Trade 7, the building housing the city's command center, burns unchecked for 7 hours. At 5:20, it collapses. The city's emergency nerve center is destroyed.
Somewhere in that time, and it's very hard to keep track of time during this, they had been ordered to evacuate number 7 by the Port Authority. To this day, we don't know who gave that order, but whoever it was saved a lot of people's lives.
With New York a war zone, some residents walk across the Brooklyn Bridge to get out of the city. Others seek escape in vessels piloted by the Army Corps of Engineers. At 7:45 p.m., the New York Police Department says 78 officers are missing and estimates that 200 firefighters are dead. At 10:56 p.m., police officials say they believe there are victims alive in the rubble of the World Trade Center.
Working with urban search and rescue teams, there was a lot of areas to be searched underneath the debris field. There were voids that had to be searched for possible live people.
September 11th, 2001, the longest and most tragic day in New York's history, is drawing to a close.
Meanwhile, a fourth California-bound plane, United Flight 93, was hijacked about 40 minutes after leaving Newark Liberty International Airport in New Jersey.
Because the plane had been delayed in takeoff, passengers on board learned of the events of New York and Washington via cell phone and airphone calls to the ground.
Knowing that the aircraft was not returning to an airport as the hijackers claimed, a group of passengers and flight attendants planned an insurrection.
The passengers fought the 4 hijackers and are suspected to have attacked the cockpit with a fire extinguisher.
The plane then flipped over and sped towards the ground at upwards of 500 miles per hour, crashing in a rural field near Shanksville in western Pennsylvania at 10:10 a.m.
All 44 people aboard were killed. Its intended target is not known, but theories include the White House, the U.S. Capitol, the Camp David presidential retreat in Maryland, or one of the several nuclear power plants along the eastern seaboard.
Let's spend a couple of minutes and hear a couple of our stories from our teachers here at Hyatt's and where they were on 9/11 in 2001 and what this day meant to them.
When 9/11 happened, I was actually teaching 6th grade at Liberty Middle, and my daughter was only like 15 months old, and my husband actually worked for the state of Ohio at that time. And I remember that morning because Mr. Griffiths, who's the principal of Olentangy High School, came down.
I was actually teaching in my 4th grade classroom when 9/11 occurred. I'll never forget, we knew something was going on, but we didn't have TVs on. We weren't allowed to look.
At Liberty Middle School, I was teaching 7th grade science, actually right next door to Mrs. Meyer.
And my husband was actually on a plane to California at the time.
And as soon as we turned the TV on, the actual second plane hit the towers.
So on 9/11, I was actually teaching, and I vividly remember
After the attacks happened, the skies were so blue and there was not an airplane in the sky. And on my planning period, I went into the teacher lounge and our principal had put on the TV, and I remember seeing just some very graphic scenes.
So September 11th, 2001, I would have been 5 years old. I was in kindergarten, and not too often do you remember a whole lot about kindergarten, but I do remember where I was. I remember I went to a very small school, so they put everybody in the school into the library.
So in 9/11, I was in graduate school at Ohio State University, and I was actually just laying in bed watching the Today Show, and I watched as a plane hit, and then they interrupted and the other plane hit, and it was just kind of a very sad day for our society.
It means a lot to us in the sense of, I just loved how our country came together afterwards.
I think it's just where, we saw after such a tragic event, we were able to see so many people come together.
What it makes me think of is kind of be grateful for what I have. You never know what could happen during that day.
And everybody was kind of watching this tiny little 20-some inch box TV, just kind of watching things go on. We actually got out of school at noon that day. It was a half day because they had no idea what else was going on, what to expect. So I remember my aunt was a teacher in the school. I remember riding home with her and then getting picked up later from my parents and not really having a whole lot of an idea what was going on. But my mom was pretty upset. She was crying. My dad was, trying to just kind of be there for everybody. But that day, it does kind of stick out a little bit. So.
Thank you for spending some time with us looking back at the events of September 11th, 2001.
Now let's look at what's for lunch today at Hyatt's Middle School.
Hey Eagles, today we're having chicken waffles, hamburger or cheeseburger, grilled cheese, jazz pizza, select subs, salads, and sandwiches, potatoes, carrots, and milk.
Hey Eagles, this is Anthony, and tomorrow we're having egg, entree, and grain, or cereal and grain, breakfast potato, fruits and vegetables, and juice, and a choice of milk.
Thank you for that glorious lunch report. Please remind yourself and your friends to say please and thank you to our hardworking lunch workers and custodians.
Let's transition to today's and this weekend's birthdays. A lot of our Eagles celebrate their birthdays, so let's give them a shout out. Run the birthdays!
Hi Eagles, it's Ellie.
And Peyton reporting for Eagle News. We don't have any birthdays today, but we do have a lot over the weekend. Happy birthday to Abhinav A, Colin C, Cameron M, Bryn M,
Reva N, William N, Samuel L, Peyton W, and Adeline Y. Happy birthday!
Happy birthday to all of you. We hope that you had a great day. Now, for our final segment today. Today starts an important week here at Hyatt's.
It's called Start with Hello Week, and we wanted to start the week off with this video from our friends at the Sandy Hook Promise.
Check this out.
Start with Hello is when we have a week-long program just at the start of school, around September, October, where we are encouraged to go up to students and just start with hello. Go up to a student you've never met or a new student to the school and say hi, bring them into your club, and introduce them to the program, or just make a new friend.
When everyone wears their t-shirts, their Start with Hello t-shirts, it shows you how much one program can impact so many different people and how everyone is working towards a common goal to make our community happier and safer.
It can really encourage students to just step out of their shell. Because honestly, the first step is always the hardest. The thing is, once you say hello, you can absolutely, it just really encourages you to reach out to each other.
It just changed my school for the better. I've seen that, and it honestly changed me too. Our schools always, charge of pride, and I love that. But with Start with Hello, overall, everyone has been more welcoming. I've seen green all over our school, and I'm loving that.
People are being more inclusive, and more like
accepting of other cultures. And you know, sometimes it's hard because there's some barriers, like ethnic barriers, like, hey, you know, you're American, but I'm Indian, and there's some things that we just don't agree on. And like, but I feel like they start with Hello Week, you know, we had a poster in our school like with so many words like bonjour or hola. So that really opens up the forum, because I feel like language or like race or religion shouldn't be like a barrier to anything.
Students are finding out that they're more alike than different. Instead of labeling themselves as an athlete or in the arts, that's great. That's your passion, that's your hobby or your academics, but it doesn't define you. And we're finding out that we all have the same struggles behind the scenes and the same challenges. So we are actually more alike than different, and that's what I try to bring into our school and our programming.
It's just about making sure that everyone feels safe and included in their community, and that goes a long way in helping people with their mental health and helping people feel like they're part of a community. And in general, it can go a long way in preventing people from feeling the need to hurt themselves or hurt other people or lash out. So I love Start With Hello, and it's also a lot of fun. It's just getting to know people around you and making sure that they feel welcome.
It kicks off our school year in a positive light. It makes sure that our students have someone to connect to, whether it's an adult or a student, and it just starts off our year on the right foot.
It's nice to really start with that positive attitude, positive energy, have some fun with it, and really emphasize the idea that you know, we can prevent violence as simply as just being kind to one another.
We look forward to more Start With Hello videos later this week on the news. I am Archie.
And I am Liam.
I'm Maddux.
And I'm Brayden.
No.
Have a great week.
Bye. Bye.
I am a Hyatt's eagle. I will be brave, strong, helpful, and kind. I will fly high so I may understand other perspectives. I will be loyal and fierce in my convictions. I will spread my wings and travel far and wide. I'm a member of a special family that will always be a part of me. I am a Hyatt's eagle.